crowd. Thank you all very much for coming out. Let me thank Ali Peeler, Neil Francis, Yoke Lore, Tricia Ettringer, Jessica Burbank, Kenneth Hansen, Michelle Lemire. And let me give a very special thanks to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for joining us. And here is the truth. You know, as I'm a member of the United States Senate, and I kind of follow the Congress a little bit. And I honestly cannot think of any one member of the Congress in less than a year. Now, sometimes we forget this. Alexandria was elected less than a year ago, served less than a year. And yet I cannot think of any member of Congress who has done more within 1 year to fundamentally transform American politics. Alexandria has been a bold and leading voice for the working families of our country, for the women of our country, for people of color, and for the immigrant community. She has been an inspiration to millions of young people and has made it clear that the younger generation of this country will not patiently wait online for power. They want their agenda moving forward. They want that progressive agenda passed now. Alexandria understands, as I do, and as you do, and we've worked together on this issue, that it is unacceptable that Wall Street makes billions of dollars a year charging you and the American people 20 or 25% interest rates on your credit card on money they get for 2.5%. That is called usury, and we are going to end that. Alexandria understands that in the richest country in the history of the world, it is totally vulgar and unacceptable that tonight 500,000 Americans are sleeping out on the street or are in emergency shelters, and the 19 million Americans are paying half of their limited incomes for rent. And that is why we are going together to end homelessness in America and build up to 10 million units of affordable and low-income housing. And perhaps among many other issues, perhaps most importantly, the Congresswoman understands what Donald Trump does not. And that is that climate change is not a hoax, but an existential threat to Iowa, our country, and the entire planet. And that is why she introduced the concept of the Green New Deal. a proposal we incorporated in our climate change legislation, which is the most comprehensive climate change proposal ever introduced by any candidate running for federal office. And our proposal understands that we have a moral responsibility to make sure that this planet is habitable and healthy for our kids and future generations. And that is why we are going to take on the greed and corruption of the fossil fuel industry. And whether they like it or not, we are going to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And create up to 20 million good-paying jobs. And tomorrow at Drake University in Des Moines, we are going to do a whole conference on climate change, and I hope some of you will be able to attend it. I think you'll find it very interesting. So let me thank Alexandria for all that she is doing and for being part of our campaign. And in this unprecedented moment in American history, let me thank the several thousand people who were here tonight and the many more who are watching this event on live stream. Thank you all for being part of a political revolution. A revolution which will not only defeat the most dangerous president in modern American history, a president who is a pathological liar, a president who is running an incredibly corrupt administration, a president who is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot. Other than that, pretty good. But and this is an important point, our political movement is not just about defeating Trump. It is about transforming our country and creating an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And when our campaign talks about us, not me, that's not just a bumper sticker, although it is a pretty good bumper sticker. What that is about, I think, are two things. Number one, it is the understanding, as Alexandria said, that whether you live in the Bronx, whether you live in Vermont, whether you live in Iowa, Nebraska, or wherever you live, we are in this together. And that we become more human when my family cares about your family and when your family cares about my family. Donald Trump believes that the future of politics in America is to divide the American people up based on the color of their skin, based on where they were born, based on their sexual orientation or their religion. Well, Donald Trump does not understand what America is about. And that is why Donald Trump is going to lose this election. We are going to win the Democratic nomination, and we're going to defeat Trump because we are doing exactly the opposite of what he is doing. He is trying to divide us up, and we are bringing our people together, black and white and Latino, Native American and Asian American, gay and straight, immigrants and native born. We're going to win because when we bring our people together around the principles of justice, economic justice, social justice, racial justice, environmental justice, when we do that, there is no stopping us. People sometimes say that Alexandria and I are an odd couple. That she is so old and I am so young. But that's okay, I'm not an ageist. No, but here is the point. The point is, as you heard, Alexandria's family came from Puerto Rico and struggled to maintain and live a life of dignity. My family fled, my father fled anti-Semitism and poverty in Poland and came to this country. My campaign manager's family came from Pakistan. My wife came from Ireland. People in this room came from all over the world. That diversity is what makes us great. And that is something that Trump and his friends will never be able to tear apart. Now, it is important, and I'm picking up on a point that Alexandria made, it is important to take a hard look at where we are as a people today. The media or Trump often talks about how great the economy is. Well, the economy is not great when half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. The economy is not great when 87 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, when 30,000 people a year die because they don't get to a doctor on time because they're underinsured, and when 500,000 people go bankrupt because of medical bills. This economy is not doing well when hundreds of thousands of bright young people are unable to get the higher education they dream of. And when tens of millions, including many in this room, struggle with the incredible oppressive burden of student debt. The economy is not doing well when we got senior citizens in Iowa trying to survive on $12,000 or $13,000 a year Social Security, when many workers 55 or 60 don't have a nickel saved for retirement, and when many of our senior citizens are cutting their prescription drugs, pills in half because they cannot afford the outrageous price that the pharmaceutical industry is charging us. Meanwhile, while so many of our people are struggling, while childcare is unaffordable, while teachers are taking money out of their own pockets to buy school supplies, while all of that is happening, there is another reality taking place in America today, and that is that the wealthiest people in our country have never, ever had it so good. And we are looking at more income and wealth inequality today than at any time since the 1920s. Today, the wealthiest three people own more wealth than the bottom half of this country. Today, the top 1% own more wealth than the bottom 92%. Over the last 30 years, the top 1% have seen a $21 trillion increase in their wealth, while the bottom half of American people have actually seen a decline in their wealth. As I have traveled around Iowa, I have talked to too many workers who tell me how difficult it is to take care of their families on 10, 11, 12 bucks an hour, and they're working 50 or 60 hours a week. Meanwhile, 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. Today, 25 hedge fund managers earn double the income of 140,000 kindergarten teachers. And here's something that we should never forget, that when we talk about income and wealth inequality, it's not just that one group has a lot more money than another group. People on top are living 15 years longer than the people at the bottom. In other words, poverty in America, and there are 40 million people living in poverty, is a death sentence. And for the last 3 years, we have actually seen a decline in life expectancy in America. Now, that is where we are today as a nation in which a handful of billionaires exercise enormous power over our economy and the political life of our country, while many of you are struggling to put food on the table. And given that reality, it is clear to me, and I believe to you, that the enormous problems facing our country cannot be solved by the same old style of politics. The time is now to tell the corporate elites, with all of their greed and their corruption, that enough is enough. That this country belongs to all of us, not just the few. We need a new vision for our country, and that is what this campaign is about. And in terms of that political struggle that we are engaged in, and how we bring about the transformative changes that we need, let me quote a statement from Nelson Mandela, one of the great political leaders of our period. A man who spent most of his adult life in jail fighting apartheid in South Africa. And this is what Mandela said. I want you to hear this clearly. He said, and I quote, "It always seems impossible until it is done." It always seems impossible until it is done. In other words, what Mandela was talking about is that whether it is the economic establishment, whether it is the political establishment, whether it is the media establishment, they want us to believe that real and fundamental change can never, ever take place. They want you to believe that poverty is always going to be with us. They want you to believe that all you deserve as a worker is 10, 12 bucks an hour. They want you to accept the fact that you do not have health care, and maybe you will never have health care. They want you to believe that education is not a human right, that housing is not a human right, that a decent job is not a human right. The greatest obstacle that we face is not just Wall Street, it's not just the insurance companies and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry, it's not just the military industrial complex or the prison industrial complex. The greatest obstacle that we face is the limitation to our own imagination. If you believe, as they tell you, that health care is not a human right, you will never have health care. If they tell you you've got to continue working for starvation wages, you will continue working for starvation wages if that is what you believe. So what this campaign is about is not just taking on the political establishment, not just taking on the economic establishment. What this campaign is about is a new vision for what Americans are entitled to as human beings. This campaign is about thinking big, not small. This campaign, when we talk about us, not me, is the understanding that the only way that real change ever takes place, has ever taken place, is from the bottom on up, not from the top on down. Because when tens of millions of people stand up for justice, there is nothing that the corporate elite can do to stop it. So let me just give you a glimpse about what the progressive agenda means to ordinary Americans. We believe that quality education is a human right from preschool to graduate school. We believe that it is a terrible, terrible tragedy for the young children, for our little kids, that they do not have quality child care or pre-K, and that working families cannot afford that child care, and that the workers who do the work with the little kids are almost always underpaid. If you love this country, you love the children. And if you love the children, we are going to have universal, high-quality, affordable child care. We are going to have the best public education system in the world, because we are going to honor and respect our teachers and provide them with the compensation that they deserve. We are going to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. And we are going to cancel all student debt in this country. Now you're going to hear from our critics, and they are all over the place, well, how you're going to afford the $1.4 trillion you need to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and cancel all student debt over a 10-year period. How do you afford it? And our response is that 11 years ago, apparently we could afford to provide trillions of dollars in zero-interest loans to the crooks on Wall Street who destroyed this economy. Apparently we could afford to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks and subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. Apparently, we could give more than $1 trillion in tax breaks under Trump to the 1% and large profitable corporations. Well, between you and me, if we can do all that, I think we can cancel all student debt in this country. In my view, every American who wants a job should be able to find a job through a federal jobs guarantee program, which pays them a living wage. Brothers and sisters, there is an enormous amount of work that needs to be done. We need child care workers. We need teachers. We need millions of workers to help us rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. We need many millions of workers to help us transform our energy system. We need workers in healthcare as more and more people will come into the healthcare system because they have insurance. We need more doctors. We need more nurses. We need more people to take care of an aging population. There is more than enough work to do. Let us guarantee a job for everyone who is prepared to do that work. 4 years ago, when I came to Iowa, I said something that I have believed for my whole adult life, and that is that health care is a human right, not a privilege. And I talked about the need to expand Medicare to cover every man, woman, and child in this country. 4 years ago, that seemed like a radical idea. Ain't so radical anymore. And it's not radical because the American people, the people in Iowa, the people in Vermont, people all over this country understand the incredible dysfunctionality and cruelty of the current system. Brothers and sisters, hear this. We are spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. We're spending close to $11,000 a year, twice what the Canadians spend. And yet, despite that, we have 87 million who are uninsured or underinsured, high deductibles, high co-payments. We have 30,000 who die each year because they don't go to a doctor when they should. And as I mentioned earlier, really, this is really unbelievable when you talk about the cruelty of a system. 500,000 people go bankrupt every year because of medical bills. Think of it. Somebody is diagnosed with cancer or Alzheimer's or some terrible illness. You got enough to worry about dealing with your illness. You should not have to worry that your family's going bankrupt to pay the bills. Now, people talk about everybody's got a health care plan out there. I know that. Health care for some, health care for this one, health care for that one. So let me tell you what Medicare for all is. First of all, we expand Medicare to cover dental care, to cover hearing aids, to cover eyeglasses, to cover home health care so folks are not pushed into nursing homes. And under Medicare for all, this is just building on what the Canadians and people all over the world have done. There are no premiums. There are no co-payments. There are no insane deductibles. You know, you talk to people who have, oh yeah, I got an insurance program, I got a $12,000 deductible. Doesn't kick in unless I get hit by a truck. And we end all out-of-pocket expenses. That is Medicare for all. You go to any doctor you want, you go to any hospital you want, you don't take out your wallet, you don't take out your credit card. And people say, oh, Medicare for all, it's just so radical. You tell me how every other major country on earth has managed to provide health care to all people at a fraction of the cost. Please don't tell me we can't do that in the United States. And people say, oh, Medicare for all is going to be disruptive. Not at all. In fact, it is the easiest way to do universal health care. It's a 4-year transition period. Right now, Medicare eligibility is at 65 first year, down to 55, then 45, 35. We cover everybody. Ain't complicated a bit. Now, don't let anybody tell you that this is a debate about health care. It is not. Nobody can rationally defend the cruelty and dysfunctionality of the current system. We spend a fortune and we get very little value for it. Here is what the debate is about. Last year, you'll all be pleased to know that the healthcare industry made $100 billion in profit. And the CEOs of the insurance companies and the drug companies doing phenomenally well. You all know that not only do we pay the highest prices in the world for healthcare, many of you are paying 20% of your incomes for healthcare, but we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. A couple of months ago, I took a trip from Detroit into Canada with people who are dealing with diabetes. Anybody here know folks who are dealing with diabetes? Yeah. All right. And we bought insulin made by the same company who sells the product in the United States, same company, for 1/10 the price in Canada. And it's not just insulin. And by the way, you want to talk about crazy? 25% of the 7.5 million people in this country who use insulin are rationing their insulin. Elderly people cut their prescription drugs in half. Meanwhile, the 6 major drug companies made $69 billion in profits last year. Under Medicare for All, we're going to take on the drug companies. And by the way, they're not just greedy. They are corrupt, and they're engaged in massive price fixing and collusion. So to the pharmaceutical industry, with all of your money and all of your power, we are going to take you on. You're no longer going to rip off the American people. And under Medicare for All, nobody in America will pay more than $200 a year for their prescription drugs. Love you too. Donald Trump I was thinking of how to describe Donald Trump. He himself believes he is a stable genius. Maybe not. Maybe not. Donald Trump thinks that climate change is a hoax. And this is not just a danger for our country, but obviously for the entire world. And that is why our administration will not only take on the fossil fuel industry, and I want you to think about this for a moment, because this is the kind of corruption that we are taking on. You got drug companies, as you know, are being sued for many billions of dollars, the manufacturers of opiates, who were selling their product knowing that it was causing addiction and death. That's what we're dealing with. And then you got the fossil fuel industry. I want you to think about this for a second. These guys have known for a very long time. Their engineers, their scientists are not stupid. They have known that the product that they are producing, carbon, is helping to destroy our planet. And yet they have lied. They have funded organizations and think tanks that have tried to obfuscate the reality of what the fossil fuel industry is doing. Think about it. Guys sitting there making huge amounts of money while they destroy the planet. So tonight we say to the fossil fuel industry, your short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. And not only will we transform our energy system, we will lead the world in transforming the global energy system. Tonight in America, as we speak, there are currently 2 million people behind bars. 2 million people. We have more people in jail in the United States than any other country on earth, including China, communist authoritarian country, 4 times our size. And that is why we are going to bring fundamental reform to a broken and racist criminal justice system. Instead of spending $80 billion a year locking up our fellow Americans, we are going to invest in our young people, in jobs and education, not more jails and more incarceration. No more private jails and detention centers. And we are going to end the horrific so-called war on drugs, which has hurt so many people. We are going to legalize marijuana. We are going to expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And when marijuana is legal in every state, we're not going to allow a handful of corporations to make billions in profit. We're going to help those communities that were hurt most, the African American community, Latino community. We're going to help them earn an honest profit when marijuana is legal. Brothers and sisters, I am sick and tired, as I know you are, of Trump and his allies demonizing the immigrant community in this country. And I feel that especially strongly as the son of an immigrant. We are going to go forward and pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the 11 million undocumented. On our first day in office, we will restore the legal status of the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. We're going to end the ICE raids that are terrorizing communities. And we're going to develop a humane border policy, not a policy where federal officials are snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. Not a policy in which children are locked up in cages and families are separated. Brothers and sisters, I know that all of us recoil in horror when we hear about another terrible mass shooting in the United States. So I want to assure you that our administration will not be intimidated by the NRA. The American people, whether in rural communities or urban, whether they are gun owners or non-gun owners, understand that we need a common sense gun policy in this country. People who have histories of violence should not, and under our administration, will not own guns. We're going to do away with the gun show loophole. We're going to do away with the so-called straw man provision, which allows people to legally buy guns and sell them to criminals. We are going to end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. You know, as a United States Senator, I often hear my conservative colleagues go to the floor and talk about their vision of small government, how they want to get government out of the lives of the American people. Well, I say to those conservatives, if you want to get government out of the lives of the American people, understand that it is the women of this country who have the right to control their own bodies, not the government. You can't talk about getting the government out of people's lives when you have politicians at the local, state, and federal level telling every woman in this country what she can or cannot do. And here's my promise to you. I will never nominate anyone to the U.S. Supreme Court who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. Brothers and sisters, what the political revolution means is that we're ending politics as usual. We don't have to hustle money from billionaires or from super PACs because we have earned the respect of working people all across this country and have received more individual contributions than any candidate at this point in a campaign in American history. And that average contribution is $16. And that money is coming from teachers. It is coming from workers at Amazon, at Walmart, at McDonald's, and at Burger King. People who are struggling to keep themselves going economically. But they understand that when we are all working together, we can bring about the transformative change that this country requires. And let me conclude by getting back to a point that Alexandria made. And that is, at the end of the day, the 1% is enormously powerful. I'm a U.S. Senator. I deal with these guys every day. You don't know how much wealth and power they have. You don't know about the 6 Wall Street banks that have assets of over $10 trillion. Right now, here in Iowa, you're seeing ads on television coming from the healthcare industry lying about Medicare for all. They have unlimited sums of money to do those ads all across this country. The military-industrial complex has managed to create a situation where there are massive cost overruns, where the Department of Defense is the only major agency of government never submitted to an independent audit, and we now spend more money on the military than the next 10 countries combined. And by the way, we intend to end the endless wars. But the political revolution is not just taking on greed and corruption of the corporate elite or the political leadership of this country. It is more than that. It is making each and every one of you and all Americans understand that when we stand together, when we rebuff Trump's effort to try to divide us up by the color of our skin or whatever, that when we stand together, for a common humanity, a humanity that understands whether you're black or white or Latino, you want your kids to have a great education. You want your kids to drink clean water. That you understand that no matter what background you have, healthcare is a human right. That people should not be penalized for decades in paying off student debt for the crime of getting a higher education. When we understand that as human beings, economic rights are human rights, that you are not really free if you're working for $9 an hour and you don't have health care. That you're not free if you can't afford to get the higher education you dreamed of. That you are surely not free if the planet is undergoing cataclysmic changes as a result of climate change. So what this campaign is about is all of us coming together to understand that if we stand together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. And here in Iowa, you guys have a very oversized role in American politics. You all know it. I know that you take it seriously. You are the first caucus state, the first state that will be voting. And I believe that if we win here in Iowa, and I think with the kind of volunteer support we have, we are going to win here in Iowa. And if we win here in Iowa, I'm pretty confident we're going to win in New Hampshire. We're going to win in Nevada. We're going to win in California. We're going to do really well in South Carolina. And when we do all of that, we have a direct path not only to victory, but to the opportunity to transform this country in a way that has never been seen in the modern history of this country. So this struggle is not just about you or you or you. It's about future generations. It's about whether, in fact, this planet remains healthy and habitable. We are living in an unprecedented moment in American history, and it goes beyond Trump and his lies and his corruption. It is a moment in which we have got to summon up the courage to take on the corporate elite and their greed and their corruption. So this is the moment for us to stand up, not just for ourselves, but for our kids, our grandchildren, and generations yet to come. Let us go forward together. Let us win this election. Let us transform this country. Thank you all very much.